Welcome back, our TV viewers. Now it's time for our daily press review for today, and we'll start our press review from اليوم السابع. President Al-Sisi attends youth iftar. President Abdel Fattah Al-Sisi attended on Monday the youth iftar organized by the students of the presidential program for qualifying youth for leadership. During his speech, the president stressed the state's determination to increase the number of young people qualified to lead. The president said that a conference to discuss the results of the dialogue with the youth will be held in September in the Red Sea resort of Sharm el-Sheikh. Also on Monday, President Al-Sisi met with the Prime Minister Sharif Ismail and Minister of Higher Education and Scientific Research, Dr. Ashraf al-Shehi. During the meeting, the Minister of Higher Education reviewed the strategic vision of the system of higher education in Egypt within the framework of implementation of the government's program as well as Sustainable Development Plan, Egypt's Vision 2030. The minister also reviewed the progress of work and effort for the opportunities available in higher education and expanding the establishment of the Egyptian government and private universities, particularly in the field required. Al-Shehi also reviewed ways of improving the quality of education and the basic elements and the system of higher education, particularly the teaching staff, and the importance of their training and developing skills. Meanwhile, President Abdel Fattah Al-Sisi stressed on the importance of working to improve the higher education quality and develop acceptance systems at Egyptian University. The president also stressed on the importance to improve the level of Egyptian university graduates and the importance to care of the gifted and talented as well as people with special needs to prepare them to compete at the international level. The president also stressed on the importance to supply the work market of the trained and qualified workers at the highest levels. Also on Monday, the president met with the Minister of Health, Dr. Ahmed Ahmed Radi. During the meeting, the Minister of Health reviewed the ministry's plan to develop the health system in Egypt within the framework of the implementation of the government program. Radi pointed out that he has already spotted the problems afflicting the vital sector, adding that they are working to address these problems gradually. He referred to the ministry's implementation of an ambitious plan to develop the government and the hospitals and the centers in different parts of Egypt. He said that more than £8 billion were allocated from the next year's budget for the reform and development of the public hospitals and the medical facilities.
And we move on to Parliamani and we read the following headline. Prime Minister heads Economic Group meeting. Prime Minister Sharif Ismail headed on Monday the Economic Group Ministerial meeting. During the meeting, the Prime Minister gave his instructions to Minister of Investment, Dalia Khurshid, to study the situation of stalled factories and companies in the Suez Governorate. The Prime Minister also asked the Minister of Investment to provide a report on the most suitable ways to repair those factories and companies in order to make them ready to carry out their work again. The Economic Group agreed to license the National Authority for Tunnels to establish a company and establish investment projects to generate for its budget. The meeting also agreed to the necessary preparations to develop the tram in Raml area in Alexandria, which aims at making it modern tram. And the meeting also tackled the prices file and the availability of supply goods to citizens. The meeting also focused on the projects that aim to attract investments as well as the development works underway in national projects. The Prime Minister followed on efforts to encourage investments and provide the necessary climate for investors as well as the foreign currency status.
And moving our viewers to El Masri اليوم, from where we read, Egypt Air allocates 25,000 temporary compensation for every family of flight MS-804 victims. Chairman and CEO of Egypt Air Holding Company, Safwat Musallam, said on Monday that Egypt Air agreed with insurance companies to compensate each family of the victims of flight MS-804 with $25,000. Musallam said in a press statement that the compensation is temporary, as the full amount will be offered once the settlement with the insurance companies is completed in accordance with the international insurance standards. Musallam also said that the cabinet will issue death certificate for the victims in the coming 48 hours. Meanwhile, the Egyptian Investigative Committee looking into the crash of Egypt Air Flight MS-804 has begun of the plane's two black boxes found in the Mediterranean Sea last week. The committee said it started the analyzing of the black boxes with representatives from France and the United States.
And we
Hela, I believe before moving on, we have a report about these developments concerning the Egypt Air flight, and we'll be back to resume our press review.
Will finish soon repairing memory units from the black box recorders of an Egypt Air flight that crashed into the Mediterranean last month. Extracting data from the memory units of the cockpit voice recorder and flight data recorder from Egypt Air flight MS-804 should help the country's aircraft accident investigation committee explain why the plane went down on May 19th. A senior investigation official said that the repairs will be complete within hours, after which the committee will be able to determine how easy it will be to extract the data. Both black box recorders from the Airbus A320, whose crash en route from Paris to Cairo killed all 66 people on board, were recovered from the Mediterranean last week. Investigators said the devices were heavily damaged and needed repair before they could be transcribed.
Welcome back, dear viewers, and we move on to El Wafd, and from El Wafd we read the following headline. Germany's national security advisor arrives in Cairo to discuss bilateral. Germany's national security advisor, Christoph Husgen, meets on Tuesday Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry. Husgen arrived on Monday in Cairo, coming from Munich on a two-day visit to Egypt. He's expected to meet a number of senior Egyptian officials to discuss the latest security developments in the region, especially in Syria, Libya, and Yemen, as well as fighting terrorism efforts. The visit is also expected to tackle enhancing cooperation between the two countries, as well as coordination on issues of common interest for both countries.
And still our viewers with the Wafd, and we read joint Egyptian-French naval exercises Cleopatra 2016 kick off. The joint Egyptian-French naval exercises Cleopatra 2016 kicked off on Monday with the participation of the units from the Egyptian Navy, including Gamal Abdel Nasser helicopter carrier and elements from the French naval forces. The exercises include training on planning and managing naval offensive to refine the leaders' and officers' skills and exchange of experiences between the two sides, leading to higher efficiency rates and preparing for the implementation of any common tasks under different circumstances. The training comes in the framework of joint exercises of the armed forces with the friendly countries to strengthen the prospect of military cooperation and exchange of training experiences for both countries, which have strong bonds of partnership and cooperation in many fields. Meanwhile, ports of Alexandria and Dakhila continued their preparation for the arrival of helicopter carrier Gamal Abdel Nasser, which is expected to arrive in few days. On June 2nd, Egyptian Navy officers raised the Egyptian flag on the first Mistral helicopter carrier in Saint-Nazaire port in France. Earlier, 170 Egyptian crewmen participated in an intensive training on board the carrier to prepare for taking over its helm. Another Mistral helicopter carrier named after the late President Anwar Sadat will be delivered in Cairo in September.
And we move on to Al Akhbar newspaper, and from Al Akhbar we read Minister of Petroleum meets his Jordanian counterpart. Minister of Petroleum and Mineral Resources Engineer Tariq Al Mullah met on Monday with his Jordanian counterpart Dr. Ibrahim Saif, who arrived in Cairo heading a ministerial delegation. Saif discussed with Al Mullah the aspects of cooperation between both countries in the fields of energy and natural gas. The Jordanian minister also discussed the Egyptian government's development plans and strategies relating to the new discoveries of natural gas fields at the Mediterranean Sea, in particular Zuhr natural gas field. During the meeting, Saif also tackled ways to benefit from the Egyptian experience in supplying industries with natural gas and establishing natural gas distribution networks in cities. The Jordanian minister also discussed the signed agreements between the two countries in order to achieve economic benefit from the resources available in the two countries and the expansion of areas of mutual cooperation.
And moving to اليوم السابع, from where we read, army surge towards Daesh-held Tabqa. Syrian army backed by Russian air power continued to surge towards a key town and adjacent air base held by the Daesh terrorist group. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said that regime forces were now within 7 kilometers of the Daesh-held airport of Tabqa. Head of the observatory, Rami Abdel Rahman, said that there are fierce clashes there. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said that regime forces were now within 7 kilometers of the Daesh-held airport at Tabqa. Government forces had been stuck at about 15 kilometers from the airport for more than 1 week. The observatory said that intensifying Russian airstrikes and reinforcement from their elite Republican Guard unit allowed them to advance. Earlier this month, government forces backed by Moscow began pushing another toward Tabqa, whose dam, military airbase and strategic transit town have been held by Daesh terrorist group since 2014. And to shed more light about the development in Syria, we have the following report.
Of the Daesh group drove Syrian regime troops out of Raqqa province on Monday, killing dozens of fighters in a lightning counterattack. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said the attack was mounted late on Sunday in response to a regime offensive in the Daesh stronghold of Raqqa launched on June 3rd that advanced about 20 kilometers towards the town of Tabqa. It came as U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry said he had read a memo from a group of frustrated diplomats urging strikes against the Syrian regime and found it very good. The dissident cable became public last week after 51 serving U.S. officials signed a call for direct U.S. military action to force President Bashar al-Assad's regime to negotiate for peace. The memo was seen as a criticism of President Barack Obama's cautious approach, but the dissident channel is an approved mechanism for diplomats opposed to official policy. Syria's civil war began with the brutal repression of anti-government demonstrations in 2011 and has now killed more than 280,000 people and displaced millions. Government troops backed by Russian airstrikes in early June pushed into Raqqa for the first time 2014, aiming for the country's largest dam at Tabqa on the Euphrates River.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and from politics into the world of business and finance. And to read some economic news, we move on to اليوم السابع. From it, we read Egypt's stock market loses 7.6 billion Egyptian pounds on Monday. Egypt's stock market ended on Monday in the red, following a collective decline of its indices amid strong local and foreign selling. The benchmark EGX30 dropped 1.83% to close at 7,203.64 points, its lowest level since mid-March. Meanwhile, the EGX70 and EGX100 indices retreated 1.36% and 1.35% to 352.84 points and 750.66 points, respectively. The EGX50 lost 2.3% to 1,295.82 points, and turnover reached 421.4 million pounds as 150 million shares were traded. A total of 127 stocks ended down, while 14 gained and 31 remained unchanged. Market capital lost 7.6 billion pounds to 389.58 billion pounds from 397.2 billion pounds. The Egyptian and foreign investors selling was 23.1 million pounds and 1.8 million pounds respectively, whereas Arab investors bought stocks worth 24.9 million pounds.
And moving to El Wafd, from where we read, to climb slightly on Tuesday. The Egyptian Meteorological Authority said that temperatures are likely to rise gradually on Tuesday, with high of 40 degrees centigrade expected in Cairo. Northern cities will be moderately warm with the Alexandria, Damietta and Port Said all experiencing heights of 32 degrees. And low and medium level clouds will be seen over the northern coast towards the west. Visibility will be reduced in the morning due to fog on northern coast, the Delta, Cairo and the central provinces. There will be also in northwestern wind. Waves in the Mediterranean will range between 1 and 1.5 meters, while the Red Sea they will reach between 2 and 2.5 meters. There will be a northwestern wind on both sides. Experts advise citizens to avoid direct exposure to sun and avoid walking long distances at noon. Hala, I believe with this final item we come to the end of our press review for today.
Yes, and we'll be back after a short break. Stay with us.